Hey everybody, I'm Trevor.
I'm Vincent.
We are the Anthony and Todd Show, and today we're going to be checking out the latest mixtape by Westside Gunn, Hitler Wears Hermes 6. There's 6 installments in that. That's crazy.
Hitler just keeps on wearing Hermes. We need to stop this
Somebody
man.
tell him to stop so we don't have to listen to boom, 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 boom.
Boom! You forgot the boom. There's always like the one distinct end to that ad-lib.
I wasn't done yet.
Oh, you weren't done
It
yet?
picks up later.
So later, at the end of the review, you'll finish it.
Yeah. Alvin Lamar Worthy, aka Westside Gunn, is a Buffalo rapper, founder of Griselda Records, which is a subsidiary of Shady Records, owned by Eminem. He's the brother of Conway, and the two form the duo Hall and Nash. Westside Gunn, I think, is most notable for us for working with MF Doom earlier this year with the collaboration, 2 tracks, Westside Doom. In June 2018, he released Supreme Blientel, aka Chris Benoit, aka God is the Greatest, which was his first full-length album. Both of us really enjoyed that project.
Yeah, even in its flaws, I thought it actually had a lot of character. These very dreamy, but also breathless soul instrumentals, which isn't anything new because he's working with the clientele of Atmos. He's working with the Blientel. Sorry for my French. He's working with the Blientel of The Alchemist and Derringer and Evidence, people of that nature, who have worked with people who've used this style before. The production that was on that wasn't anything new, but what was interesting is that Westside Gunn takes from late 90s, early 2000 acts, such as Ghostface Killah or
Outkast.
This very nasally, strange kind of, but also menacing. It's very cartoonish, but it also has this weird edge to it that makes it unique. It's a very distinctive character.
And the edge comes a lot from the storytelling, I think, as well, telling the legend of Chris Benoit, who's famous for killing his wife and child.
And then himself. And a tragedy that involved steroids and the death of Eddie Guerrero. And it's just a mess. But also Chris Benoit in the ring, when he was alive, was a very scary individual. And playing up that menace factor is what made that album cool. Also having clips from Arn Anderson and Joey Styles relating to wrestling, whether it's talking about Sabu or Arn Anderson talking about Chris Benoit, I thought was really interesting. And I thought the skits on that fit that album, and it made it very distinctive to him. While it was too long, while there's some moments that I thought it was a little too bloated, and I think it as a whole it felt a little clunky at times, but the moments on there that shined super bright. Moments like WrestleMania 20 with Anderson .Paak. Moments like Brassface Brippler with Custa Rhymes. Dean Malenko and Sabu really stand out and making this caricature of this kind of menacing, but almost in a dream sense, this nightmarish menace. While we did think it needed to be slimmed down a bit, we did really enjoy that. And I think it's something that kind of takes a while to grow on you, because we didn't really like it at the first listen, but on the second one you appreciate what makes that style and that atmosphere and that mood so great. You need to let it breathe because it is a very breathless album. This new project, I thought it was going to have the kind of same style of, I was probably going to have to listen to this multiple times. I did, and I think as a mixtape, it fits kind of what the modern conception of a mixtape is. It isn't your main stuff. It doesn't have your main themes or anything, any of these big ideas, because you save those for your albums. That's kind of the modern kind of belief of what mixtapes kind of should be. And I think without kind of these big ideas or big narrative pictures, this is fine as a mixtape. I think it's good. Westside Gunn continues to deliver character with these dreamy instrumentals, having producers like Derringer, Alchemist, Evidence, DJ Muggs, on this project was very fitting, and I think it made a lot of sense to have those producers on here. He has good production, he has a good performance, good charisma, he has his great ad-libs on this with the boo 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 boo, and just he's such a very charismatic guy, and there's such a hidden, almost dark nature to his nasally stylings. I think it's good, but the thing that this is missing is it's missing those themes. It's missing that darker layer. While there is some moments on here that feel like they fit that theme of this dark almost breathless area, like My First Drako, where he's talking about getting his first Drako, which is a mini AK, and kind of what he chooses to do with it. Also kind of like Amherst Station 2, where he's talking about selling drugs, something continuing some of the themes off of Supreme Blind Tell, how he can turn 2 grams and sell them for 5 or something like that, how he can inflate the price. I think the ideas he shows on those tracks, that kind of crime riddled almost New York setting, I think kind of telling these narratives, whether they even aren't even from him or he's depicting a character, actually work well for him. And I think that's something he needs to kind of continue in the future with these bigger themes and these bigger ideas, because I think what he's doing on this is he's kind of saving his best for the albums. He's saving his bigger themes. Last album was talking about Chris Benoit. This next album, who knows what he's going to be talking about, whether it is another collaboration with Doom, or maybe like throwing another collaboration with Conway, and or maybe actually comedic, or maybe actually doing a project with Action Bronson, because they have a duo together called the Dudley Boys, another wrestling reference. I think it'd be interesting to see what like themes and like ideas he comes from next. I think the producers that he's working with are good, and they manage him really well. I think Alchemist, especially Alchemist, on his like almost suite of songs, is like 3 songs chopped into one. Alchemist makes Westside Gunn, Benny, and Lord Flea all seem like top-notch talent, which is great. I think the very unworldly soul production that he's providing to that also masks the fact that this is 3 tracks, even though it shouldn't be. I like the fact that they are all combined together, because it gives it almost a feel of almost like a suite, like a grand score or a grand almost narrative plot. I love the second part with Benny and Lord Flea. I think that's great. I love the third part, which is essentially just Westside Gunn ad-libbing over and over and over again. And it is stupid, it is weird, but it actually, the production that Alchemist built up behind it makes it that like ad-libbing have stakes, and makes it feel impactful of sorts, and makes it feel like this very like grandiose gesture, this very grandiose brag. Some of the problems I have with this, again, there's no real big picture or theme to the entire thing. I think at some points, while I do enjoy the ad-libbing, I think it can get annoying and can get irritating. I think there's some tracks on here that are around 1 minute, and they don't really feel like they have really much anything to say. I think some of the skits on here, while they may be amusing, I in particular enjoy the one with Bret Hart, Vince McMahon, and Bobby the Brain Heenan from like an old WWF television show in the 90s. I thought was really interesting, but it doesn't really have anything to connect. Moments like Gigi's have these newsreels attached to them, but they don't really have a purpose except for the line that Westside Gunn said, and how he's going to burn you down like Gigi's. And I think he does it later on while making a reference to Banksy, and says he's making money like Banksy, and saying how Banksy's going to sell his name or something like that. I think these skits don't really have enough to make a connection to. And I think one thing I've enjoyed about the skits last time is they all connected with each other, because it was around the theme of Chris Benoit and wrestling. And I think while this time I enjoy these skits and these moments half the time, I think sometimes they just don't connect. I'd rather them be something new and original, like the opener, the A.A. Rashad opener, where he's saying he looks like, some white person said he looked like 12 Months a Slave or something, completely saying like the wrong film. How the track's called Black Hitler, and he's playing this very like almost anti-white and also anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish persona. How he's saying all whites and Jews owe him money. I think it's a really cool intro. It actually provides depth to the connection of what the title is, but I don't think it really it works because it's something original. When you just play a newsreel or play something from WWF and there's no like connection to it, it may be cool to hear that, but I just don't think it works. While Westside Gunn continues to deliver more passionate performances, more great charisma and great ad-libs and great features, I think the features he's working with this fit him supremely well. Even the Keisha Plum, which she was on its last record, she's more of a spoken word artist. I didn't enjoy it last time at first, but going back and listening to it, I actually enjoy her style because it's outside Westside Gunn. Because she's almost kind of like a chorus of sorts, or a ambient narrator where she kind of dictates the scene and what is happening in it. I think that's like a really cool thing, and I think if they ever did a project together where she would play this like omnipotent role, I think that would kind of be really cool, because she's just a different style, but she fits like almost this dreamlike mold that the production has. It's very off role. I think that works really well. So he has good producers, good features. He physically knows what he wants to do with these mixtapes and projects. I just think for the next one, he just needs to limit himself a bit, but still have a theme, still have the main points, and I'm excited for the next album. I just want the next project he released to actually have a theme attached to it. But overall, I think this is a fun mixtape. I had a lot of fun with it, and I think Westside Gunn shows almost this revival of like late 90s styling and that late 90s harshness that kind of came up with the Wu-Tang Clan and with like, I guess, acts of like Outkast and such a nature, that kind of retro ambiguity or that retro kind of alienistic performance, if that makes sense. Just not of this world.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think Westside Gunn, while this mixtape lacks a lot of thematic material, that's probably the biggest hit against him, because I think, once again, he's delivering a unique performance I don't think a lot of other performers have. He is instantly recognizable. His ad-libs are way, way out there, like so far removed from any other ad-lib that we typically see from other rappers. His subject matter is super bizarre. He's more into wrestling than like even some nerdcore rappers out there. Like, this guy is,
and like they're not just like flat modern wrestling references. These are like the deep cuts. So
yeah,
like,
it's like when
like the Arn Andersons and the Sabus.
like when Yachty made a Nexus reference, and Vincent's like, Yachty's never watched a wrestling match in his life. Then Westside Gunn comes in and he's like, "Yo, you remember that one match in 1997 in the summer when so and so and
it's
so and
like,
so?" It's like these deep cut references that this guy obviously like knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like I just like that quality to him, because in hip hop we get a lot of modern day wrestling references, and I think it's a lot of. I think that's what I enjoy about JPEG Mafia's latest album, Veteran. I enjoyed the wrestling references he made, because there are a lot of like contemporary references. While these are more, I don't know if he's into the modern day wrestling scene, but more like the ECW, WCW, and like even previous that, like even like WWF scene, which I enjoy because it fits that darkness mold, that almost grimy sense, because that's what wrestling kind of was back then. It had like these bright characters and people like let's say like Bret Hart, but they always had this like weird nature to them. Like Shawn Michaels is another great example of that. Like these almost like baby face or like not harsh looking individuals, but they always carried themselves like there is something bigger than they are. And I think Westside Gunn's like that, because while on the outside, or at least auditorily, you hear this very like nasally character, there is a darkness to him. There is this toughness inside of him. He is the Shawn Michaels of kind of professional wrestling. He's this like weird figure that looks like he's just a rocker and looks like he's just almost like a glam rocker in a sense. But he does a lot of coke, and he has this clique that runs the territory behind the scenes and has people get fired because he goes behind Vince McMahon's back and is a compulsive liar, and he's this big almost thug in a sense. I think Westside Gunn almost embodies the positive side of that with his character work on this. So yeah, I just enjoy that connection between the two. So yeah, we're gonna leave that there. If you want to hear us talk more about music, we host a weekly podcast every week on Apple Music, Spotify, and Google Play Music. If you want to hear that, links down below in the description. Every week, the best of the show in audio form. If you want to talk with us about music, we have a Discord where you and fellow boyos can talk to us about whatever you're bumping currently at the moment. And the link to down below that is also in the description. If you want to watch another video, I'm going to put the other Westside Gunn review of Spring Blind Tell on the screen right now if you want to check that out. But until next time, guys, I've been Vincent.
I'm Trevor.
And see you, boyos.
Bye, everybody.